Before we start, I stay rested, no glare, because this is audio only. Drive, cook, doze off, whatever. Just let it play. On September 9th, Israel carried out a shocking airstrike in Doha, Qatar, targeting senior Hamas leaders. The strike hit a residential complex in the al-Hayya district where Hamas political leaders were meeting to discuss a U.S. proposed ceasefire for Gaza. Israel claimed the strike was precise, aiming at figures like Khalil al-Hayya, a top negotiator, who they accused of orchestrating the October 7th massacre and managing the Gaza war. They called it Summit of Fire, hitting a building used by Hamas since 2012 with U.S. approval as a political office. The attack killed 6 people, 5 Hamas members, including al-Hayya's son, and a Qatari security official. Reports say at least 4 others were injured, though Israel insisted they tried to limit civilian harm. Witnesses heard multiple explosions around 3 p.m. local time, with smoke rising over Doha, a city not used to this kind of violence. CCTV footage captured the sudden blast, showing chaos in a neighborhood near embassies and schools. Hamas said their top leaders survived, but lower-ranking members and bodyguards were hit hard. This wasn't just a hit, it was a major escalation. Qatar, a U.S. ally and key mediator in Gaza talks alongside Egypt, condemned it as a cowardly Israeli strike, calling it a blatant violation of their sovereignty and international law. Other countries, like the UK and European nations, piled on with criticism, saying it risked derailing ceasefire negotiations. The UN Security Council held an emergency session, warning it threatened regional stability and undermined efforts to end the Gaza war, where Israel's been fighting since October 2023, killing over 64,000 there. Even President Trump gave a rare rebuke, saying it complicated peace talks after speaking with Netanyahu. Why now? Israel's PM Netanyahu called it retaliation for a Jerusalem shooting on September 8th, where Hamas killed 6 Israelis. But some say it was pre-planned. Weeks earlier, Israel hinted at hitting Hamas everywhere, from Gaza to Doha. It marked Israel's first strike ever inside Qatar, over 1,000 miles from its borders, and the first direct hit on a Gulf Cooperation Council member, shocking allies like Saudi Arabia and the UAE. Doha's role as a neutral mediator, hosting Hamas and mediating U.S.-backed talks, made this a bold move, potentially pushing the Middle East closer to a wider conflict. The fallout was immediate. Qatar banned Israel from its airspace, and protests erupted across the region. On X, reactions ranged from outrage over sovereignty violations to accusations of Israel escalating genocide claims. Some called it a message to mediators, no safe haven for Hamas. But it stirred fears of reprisals. Hamas vowed to respond, and Iran, Hezbollah, and others might see it as a green light for bolder moves. The U.S., caught in the middle, was notified but distanced itself, while Trump criticized Netanyahu's timing. Analysts worry this could sink ceasefire hopes, especially as hostages remain trapped in Gaza. The strike exposed Israel's reach, drones or missiles likely flown through untracked airspace, hitting a fortified Qatari compound. It's a bold statement, but risky. Qatar's ties to the U.S., with its biggest military base in the region, could strain alliances. Middle East experts say this might push Qatar closer to China or Russia, eroding U.S. influence. Meanwhile, Gaza's war grinds on, with Israel doubling down on targeting Hamas infrastructure, posts on X show. This Doha strike? It's less about killing leaders and more about sending a chilling message. No one's untouchable. But it's opened a Pandora's box, and the region's teetering. The Middle East is teetering after Israel's strike on Qatar. This audacious move has ripple effects we're still seeing. Intel suggests Israel used surveillance from agents in Qatar, maybe spies or tech monitoring, to pinpoint the meeting spot in that al-Hayya complex. The weapons? Probably a precision-guided missile or drone, launched from an F-35 or a regional base, given the distance. No leaks confirmed it yet, but online chatter points to U.S.-supplied tech, which is adding fuel to conspiracy theories on X. Hamas retaliated within days, claiming attacks on Israeli targets, though details are murky. Qatar, humiliated on its turf, expelled Israel's trade office and froze ceasefire mediation, saying trust is gone. Egyptian and Turkish leaders slammed Israel, while Saudi Arabia called for UN action. Gulf states are quietly worried. If Doha's not safe, no one is. That's why protests are popping up from Amman to Cairo, with hashtags like #HandsOffQatar trending. Iran's piling on, pushing for a regional coalition against Israel, which could embolden Hezbollah in Lebanon or Houthis in Yemen. The U.S. is in a bind. They knew the strike was coming, but didn't stop it, which has Arab allies fuming. Secretary Blinken scrambling to patch things up, but X is ablaze with U.S. hypocrisy claims. Biden's team reportedly urged restraint, but Netanyahu ignored it, betting on U.S. support outweighing backlash. Trump's jab at the strike didn't help, with some seeing it as a GOP signal against full-throttle Israel backing. On the ground, Gaza's situation's worsening. Israel says it's targeting Hamas networks, but aid groups report more civilian deaths, with over 65,000 total now, per UN data. This could spiral. Qatar's not just a mediator, it's a financial lifeline for Gaza and West Bank projects. Cutting that lifeline hits hard. Hezbollah might test Israel's defenses next, maybe with drones or rockets. Saudi Arabia's rethinking its U.S. ties, and China's already sniffing around Doha for deals. Israel's logic? Show Hamas has no sanctuary, but the cost could be isolating itself further. Netanyahu's betting on U.S. elections to tilt things his way, but if Democrats or independents sour on him, watch out. Online, analysts predict a tough winter for peace talks. Doha's strike might have killed more than just 6 people. It's a mess. It's like a domino effect unraveling. Since then, things haven't calmed. Qatar's doubled down, hosting a summit with Egypt and Turkey to counter Israel, and there's chatter online about a potential GCC, Gulf Cooperation Council, statement against Israeli overreach. Saudi Arabia and UAE are staying quiet publicly, but reportedly signaling to DC that they're reconsidering U.S. military basing talks. That's huge. Al-Udeid Air Base in Qatar is where the U.S. operates its Middle East command. Hamas, meanwhile, says it's shifting leaders out of Gulf capitals, fearing more strikes. Ex-posts show they're hiding in plain sight now, using safe houses in places like Malaysia or Indonesia. Israel's not denying or confirming, but intel suggests they've got assets tracking Hamas globally, from Turkey to Mauritania. The strike also hit Hamas's financial pipeline. Qatar was a key bankroller for their Gaza operations, channeling funds via U.S.-approved deals. Now, those spigots might dry up, forcing Hamas to lean harder on Iran or informal networks, which means more chaos. On the military front, Hezbollah's tested Israel with small drone swarms over the Golan Heights, and Houthis in Yemen claim they hit a ship in the Red Sea tied to Israel. No hard proof yet, but tensions are spiking. Israel's hitting back in Gaza, with airstrikes targeting tunnels and alleged weapon caches, but civilian deaths keep climbing. UN reports over 10,000 more since Doha, with aid agencies calling it a humanitarian crisis. Photos of bombed-out markets and hospital tents are all over X, fueling global outrage. The U.S. is trying to patch things with a $5 billion aid package for Gaza and West Bank, but Arab leaders say it's too little, too late. Blinken's in Doha today, reportedly groveling to Qatar's emir to restart ceasefire talks. Good luck there. Qatar's got leverage, and they're squeezing. Netanyahu's doubling down, telling Knesset Israel won't back off, which has EU leaders warning of sanctions. Trump's still tweeting about it, calling it Bibi's blunder, while praising his own past deals, like the Abraham Accords. Analysts on X say this could push Saudi-Israel normalization off the table for years. If this escalates, watch for Iran to move, maybe arming proxies or testing missile systems. Israel might respond with strikes in Syria or Yemen. Gaza's hostages, still 40 or so, per Israeli data, with families pushing for a deal. But after Doha, Hamas says no talks until Israel's held accountable. It's a standoff, and the Middle East more combustible than ever. Israel's airstrike in Doha on September 9th targeted Hamas leaders in a residential complex, killing 5 Hamas members and a Qatari official. It was a bold move to hit a U.S. ally soil, using precise tech, likely drones or missiles, with U.S. knowledge. Doha's furious, banning Israel's airspace and halting Gaza talks, while regional powers like Qatar, Egypt, and Turkey condemned it as a sovereignty breach. Hamas retaliated, Hezbollah's testing borders, and tensions with Iran are bubbling. The U.S. is caught between backing Israel and saving alliances, but Qatar and Saudis are pushing back hard. Gaza's war drags on, with over 65,000 dead, and ceasefire hopes are tanking. It's a mess. Israel sent a message, but it's risking a bigger fire. That's the summary. Hey, before I wrap this up, listen. If you're enjoying these raw, real stories straight from the heart, like what we just walked through with Irina, please subscribe. It's audio only. No flashy ads or dumb visuals to pull your eyes away. Just me, talking like we're in the car or winding down before bed. I'm busting my ass here, digging deep, so you don't have to, while you're driving home safe or drifting off. So hit that button, yeah? Won't take 2 seconds, and you'll never miss the next gut punch truth. Thanks for listening, really.